Our third method is just finding the x and y-intercepts. So we find a y-intercept, make x equal to 0. Find your x-intercept, make y equal 0. Draw those 2 points and graph. Really, this is kind of like a specialized table of values, is all we're doing. We're finding 2 points, which in the table of values I told you to find 3, because if you screwed up, you would at least find out. But in this, you're taking your chances with just 2 points that you're going to get them right and find their graph that way. So here we have y equals x plus 5. You want to find the y-intercept. You make x equal to 0. You do some nice math that welcomes you back from the holidays. Feel really good about yourself. Increase your confidence. 0 plus 5. Yes. Oh, it's like you never left. Y equals 5. So our y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is right here. And when we label our y-intercept, you'll notice again that x is 0. Can you see that you could have also told that your y-intercept was going to be 5 because this was in y equals mx plus b form? So you could have seen it that way as well. Yeah. On a test, you wouldn't, like in this case where it's really easy math, they're not going to deduct you marks if you went immediately and said y is equal to 5. Because it is that easy, right? Now, the x-intercept, right, when finding the x-intercept, that's when you make y equal to 0. Whoops. X plus 5. There's a little bit of math to be done here, right? To get x by itself, we'd have to subtract 5 on both sides. But again, it's not very hard to see that x has to equal negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Label that point negative 5 comma 0. And once you have those 2 points, draw the straight line through them, put arrowheads on the end of your line, and you've graphed it. Does it appear to be right? Couple of things you could do to check. We've got this in y equals mx plus b form. Your slope is supposed to be positive 1. Does this have a positive slope? Yes, because it's going up from left to right. Is the slope 1? Well, if I took those 2 points and did my rise and my run, 5 over 5 is 1. So everything appears to be right. Okay? Again, it's not a bad thing after you use one method to think about your other methods that you've learned and just sort of use them as a way to check. Do things seem to be looking the right way? Negative 2x plus 2. Again, if we want to find our y-intercept first, when x is 0, yes, if you want to just write y equals 2, that's fine. If you wanted to show your work, negative 2 times 0 plus 2, still going to be 2. So our y-intercept is at 2. And when we graph a point where nothing is labeled on our graph, we make sure that we label our points so that we give a scale to our grid. And finding our x-intercept, when we put y is equal to 0, here we've got a little bit more math to do. So if you were using your equation solving from grade 9, if I wanted to get x by itself, well, first I would subtract 2 on both sides. Then divide both sides by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. X is equal to 1. Label that point as well. Again, looking at my graph, it has a negative slope. My equation was in y equals mx plus b form. So it has a negative slope. Things seem to be working just fine. So in these ones, example 1 and example 2, thinking of all the methods that we've learned so far, table of values, y equals mx plus b, and now intercepts, I think for these first two, because they're already in y equals mx plus b form, right, I think I might choose y equals mx plus b for graphing. Start with my intercept and use my slope. But I think in this third example, this is one where the intercepts method probably is the nicest, because it isn't in y equals mx plus b form. It wouldn't be hard to rearrange it, but it isn't in y equals mx plus b form yet. So here, if I wanted to find my y-intercept, again, make x equal to 0, 3 times 0 minus 4 times y equals 12. That will just be negative 4y equals 12. Divide both sides by negative 4. And you get y is equal to negative 3. Draw that point on our graph. Negative 3, 0. Whoops. Yes, there we go. Always the x value first. Is it easy to switch those up and get it wrong? Yeah, because you, okay, so you always have to remember we're putting our x value in our coordinate first, then our y value. And to find our x-intercept here, again, that's where y is equal to 0. Then you would have 3x minus 4 times 0 equals 12. So 3x is equal to 12. Divide by 3. X is equal to 4. And draw your line through those points. Just for practice, how would we get this to y equals mx plus b? Subtract 3x from both sides because we want to get y by itself. Can I put 3x and 12 together? No. They're not like terms. They would still stay separate like that. I'll write the 3x first because in y equals mx plus b, the x comes first before the number. Okay? Sometimes we have to be careful that this subtract sign stays as a negative with the 4. And now we need to divide everything by negative 4. When the negative 3 gets divided by negative 4, it becomes positive. And we can write it as 3 over 4. When the 12 gets divided by a negative 4, it becomes a negative 3. Do we have a slope of 3/4? Do we go up 3 over 4 to our next point? Yes, we do. So again, we can use that to check. And the last two examples are special cases that we've looked at before. Do you remember what the line y equals a number looks like? It's a horizontal line. Okay? So one of the ways we can say this, it's a horizontal line where the y value is always 3. This is the line y equals 3. Some people memorize special cases like horizontal lines are y equals, vertical lines are x equals. That's fine. Okay? You can use a table of values if you wanted to. Okay, what does our table of values look like in this case? Well, when x is 1, new seating plan, you're right there. When x is 1, what's y? Well, y is always 3. Okay, so I have 1 comma 3. When x is 0, what's y? Well, y is always 3. So the equation says no matter what value of x you put in, y is always 3. And you can see from that that it's going to be a horizontal line. Is this in y equals mx plus b form? Yes. Hard to see it sometimes, but I could rewrite this as y equals 0x plus 3 if I wanted to. What's my y-intercept? 3. What's my slope? 0. It means I have to have a rise of 0 and a run of whatever I want, which will also make a horizontal line. How do you find an x-intercept? Y equals 0. First of all, can you see that this has no x-intercepts? What happens when you make y equal to 0? When does that happen? When is 0 equal to 3? Never. Right? If it was equal, then I make a deal with you. You give me $3, I'll give you 0 back, and we're good. Because they're equal. You can make a lot of money that way, I think. Just convincing people that they're equal would be a good thing. Okay. So here's our other special line, x equals. When you have x equals lines, those are vertical lines. You cannot write these in y equals mx plus b because the slope doesn't exist. There's no y-intercept, but it's every single point where the x value is -2. Again, if you label some points on here, here we would have -2, 4. Here we have -2, -2. Here we have -2, -5. Up here we'd have -2, +9. We notice that the x-coordinate is always negative. So, we're going to do some planning for the rest of the week. You've got your worksheets all the way through, so we are going to practice a little bit with worksheet number 6 right now.